I thought about being a nanny. What is it called?
An au pair?
Yeah,
I think they only call it that there. Like Europe.
Okay. Well, I was like, I thought about it, and then I decided to get a dog instead.
An au pair is definitely, like, way less responsibility than a nanny.
Oh, okay.
So
Good. I want to be an au pair then.
My schedule was, well, back up. I met these people on a website that was basically a dating app for families and au pairs.
That feels right.
I could have been kidnapped.
No,
I could have
100%.
been sold.
That's really stressful.
Yeah.
Easily.
I got the job on the first Zoom meeting.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, makes sense. You sell yourself really well. You're like, I am the only option. So what else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I got a good vibe from them, and I did. I got so lucky. My family is amazing, and I still love them just as much, if not more, today because of the time.
Yeah. Emotional.
And I can't wait to go back. But literally, do your research if you're going to be an au pair. Don't just go to a different...
I can't.
Anyway.
I mean, I wanted to because I'm like, you just like get thrown into like how they live, which I'm like, I love to travel because I'm like, I love seeing how other people live this life that we have. And I'm like, wow, America's really...
I was also like just such a cool version of myself because I was whoever I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
It was just so fun. And I put myself in those like ballsy, I shouldn't say ballsy, brave.
Ballsy.
Forget I ever said ballsy. What do I say? I put myself in really...
Ovaries. Ovaries instead of ballsy.
I put myself in a lot of really ovarian situations.
No, that's too far. Anyway, go.
I took a lot of risks.
Yes, there we go.
But I also just did it for myself.
Yeah.
Because there's like an 8-hour time difference. I wasn't talking to anyone back here until like my day was over.
Yeah.
And I think I could live that way a bit more these days.
Yeah.
And it would benefit me because you're just doing things for yourself. You're making your own. But like here, when you have a community and people know you and whatever, you're kind of trapped.
Yes. You like don't put yourself in situations that could like be uncomfortable because you're like, someone's going to find out.
Or they know me as this.
Yeah.
But really, I'm this now. And you can't just change it whenever you want,
No,
you know?
it's true. It's true. You're the love of my life.
But
yeah, no, I get that. I think I find myself breaking that because like if you knew me 5 years ago, not the same person in any way, shape, or form.
2 years ago, 1 year ago.
Oh my gosh. Like I'm like, I was just this perfect Mormon girl that just like tried to be someone that I would never was, but I just wanted so bad to fit into some space. And so I checked all the boxes. I was like, okay, losing weight's hard, so I'm going to do everything else to look like a great person because that's the only way I can in the society we live in. And, like, I remember the past couple of years, I'm like, I've lost a lot of friends. My friends, I used to have so many friends, and now I could count them all on one hand because I'm like, a lot of people have just like dropped me because they're like, oh, she's like, her beliefs are crazy, or she's like changed so much. She's so different now. Like she's lost her way. And like, for me, I'm like, this is the most authentic I've ever been in my entire life.
It's so true when they say like when you leave your community, you're leaving a community of people.
Yeah.
And oftentimes when beliefs are so strong, they're unable to coexist with other beliefs on the same level that they used to, right?
Yes.
So like maybe they're still nice people and you can go say hi or whatever, but it's just not the same because someone somewhere decided to stop trying to understand the other person.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I even find myself sometimes being like, if my beliefs are so different than someone else, I'm like, that's too much for me. Like I get like overwhelmed. I'm like, you're obviously not all there if you think that what you think is real. Like I find myself doing that, especially like with politically what's happened in the last 2 years. I'm like, I find myself being like, nope, canceled. You're done. Which is okay. I think there's some situations that like that makes sense. Like sometimes it's like, it's political, but then sometimes it's personal. You know, I'm like, sometimes there's things you can't get over. And to me, I'm like, that's okay.
Or it's just not worth the energy.
Yeah.
And
I'm like,
you're not like against, you're just letting that person be them over there.
Yeah. I'm like, your view on things,
my bubble, that doesn't belong in here.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm like, especially when it's like queer related or like things like that where it is very personal. It's like, that's too far for me. And I'm like, you can exist over there, but that is hurtful to me. So I'm going to exist over here, and that's okay.
And that's just healthy. Yeah. That's just watching out for yourself. That's not...
Yeah.
That's just disengaging almost.
Yeah. No, I think it's like 100% okay to do that. She's perfect. And I love her so much. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I love that you love her because
I'm just
your
like,
comfortability with all of this is making me way less stressed.
Oh, it doesn't bother me.
And I hope y'all enjoy the Louise sounds in the back.
We should get a seat right here so that she can like sit on it.
She does need like an elevated cot,
I think
so she can just...
so everyone can see her. Like, who the Chel cares?
Mascot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she is. But yeah, so I definitely think... What were we saying?
I promise I was present.
I promise I was present too. I was speaking. Friends. Bye.
Yes. Yeah.
Blocking everyone out of my life. See ya. No, just kidding. But kind of not kidding.
But like, it's not out of maliciousness. It's just like, oh, okay, we believe different things, and it's not worth my mental right now to try and see eye to eye or have this conversation at the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's good. And I'm to a point where, like, if someone with different beliefs than me asks me a question, or they're like curious why I believe the thing I believe, I'm happy to speak about it. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not gonna, and I'll do it in the most respectable way if I can.
Yeah.
And I'm not against being like, hey, that was offensive, or what you said was, because like I've had conversations with people with completely different beliefs than me, and like maybe I said something that they were like, I can't agree with that, and I'm like, oh, that's totally fine. This is just where I stand. And I know that we each have our own things that we're experiencing individually, that I have things that you've never understood and you can't understand.
Right.
And you have things that I will never be able to comprehend. So I'm like, that's something I think is important to remember, is like, we each have gone through a whole series of events in our lives that someone else doesn't get, and I don't get theirs.
And that makes them who they are today.
Yeah. And I'm like, and like, your surroundings make you who you are, and that's why I was the way I was for so long. And then I was like, you know what, I want to be my own person. I want to have my own beliefs, and I want to like stand by what I believe. I had a really impactful conversation with a close friend where they were like, they were very upfront about my religious beliefs, because we lived totally different lives, and I remember being really offended. I was like, this is who I am. Like, how could you say these things about me? And I went back and I was like, they got a point. I remember being like, I get why you're offended or upset by what I believe. And taking that step back and understanding, like, I can't always be right. And there's someone else that could be impacted by my views. Mm-hmm. And like, being able to review yourself and be like, hey, do you actually believe this?
Or, I got new information.
Yeah, this is impactful. Like, I remember when I was younger, I was like, I just don't get how people can be transgender. I was like, I don't get it. I was just so ignorant.
Well, and at the time, maybe you didn't understand.
I never met anyone that, of my knowledge, because I definitely had, who was identified as transgender. And I remember being like, I don't understand. You are who you are. And then I met someone who was transgender, and they were so honest and real with me and very respectful of me and my beliefs, but also they like told me everything that they experienced. And I remember thinking like I had it all wrong. Like, me thinking that I knew everything and then having this new perspective, I was like, this changed my perspective on even myself.
And so did their approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their approach had a lot to do with the way you received it.
Yeah.
That's why I go into, when people have questions about my hand, I try to remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to be like, Yeah, you're curious, and obviously there's some things that are not okay or not acceptable, and I will call those out.
Yes.
At this point in my life, but you have to make that a good experience. You don't have to.
No.
It can be up to you to make that experience positive so that you're not making the next fat person or the next disabled person a terrible situation for it. Yes. And I'm looking out for the people like me in that situation, not the people asking the question. Granted, I want to be kind to them and understand their perspective of like, that's new. I've never seen that. And I'm suddenly word vomiting and I don't know why.
Yeah.
You can understand intent if you try.
Yes.
There's a lot of people who just refuse.
Yeah.
And you can help the people like you if you handle that situation kindly. Yes. Because then they will go to the next person even more educated, even more kind, even more understanding. Yeah. And then you're just helping the other people like you.
Yes. Yeah. And that's something I'm working on because, and it's funny because like my best friend, he always gets upset because I don't stand up for myself. If someone says something very out of line, very inappropriate about my weight or my appearance, I'm always like, haha, brush it off. And it's something I'm trying to do better on and being like, hey, that was actually not appropriate. And like saying that about my body isn't appropriate. This is how you could have done it or did it better. And like, that's something I need to work on. And I feel like in the coming years, I hope I can really be that person that's like, she'll correct you if you step over a line that's appropriate. Because like, I'll leave a situation and feel so bad because I'm like, if they said this to another fat person that was like newly in a large body, like they had never been in a large body before, like me, this is who I am. I've always been fat. I always will be fat, and that's okay.
Right.
And someone else who has been in a smaller body their whole life and had a weight change, and they like, oh, I'm so insecure. I hate this about myself. And then someone makes the same comment. It could really affect them. For like me, I'm like, I brush it off. You're 120,000 people have said that to me. Great. So I definitely think it's important to correct people when they've crossed a line. Because like for me, I needed that. I needed someone to say, hey, that comment or what you said, that's not appropriate. And like that hurts me. And this is the reasons why. Because I mean, just like everyone else, everyone has this. There's something in there. No one's perfect. Everyone has something that they're doing or saying that they don't know fully about, and they need to be corrected.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important to look at yourself and be able to make that change and be like, hey, this was inappropriate. That was too much.
And realizing that you are not a bad person for that.
Yes.
You just were making...
Yes. You didn't have all the information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you weren't making a poor choice. You were just...
Yeah.
Kind of an autopilot.
Like, there were so many... I used to believe so many things with my whole heart. And I was like, this is it. And then, like, new information would come. Or I would meet someone that I love. And they would be going through this. And I'm like...
It's hard on the ego, though, to admit. Like, I was wrong.
No, 100%. Sorry. But, like, there's so many things I did and said when I was younger. Or that I regret. And I'm like, that was wrong of me. And I put a label on someone. Or I hurt someone. And, like, they were really going through it. So...
Well, we were just... really making this chaotic, aren't we?
Yeah, we're trying to. We spark. Just kidding. Don't.
But
yeah, so I think it's important to be able to say I did something wrong and understand that. But like also, it's hard for like I've had conversation with people that it's kind of the like that hurt me in a way that's like I'm queer and people are like I don't agree with that. I don't like that. Like in those situations, I don't need to change. That's not the problem.
No.
Like there's a part where you need to be like, hey, that's not an issue. This is a them problem. And you like there's things you can correct, but that's not one of them. So it's definitely a fine balance of being like, this is information I'm going to take in and I'm going to be better. And this is information that I can't take in because it hurts me.
And I've been trying not to be like you should do this, you should do that.
Yeah.
I default to that sometimes, and it's just a lack of self-awareness in the moment. Yeah. But my goal is to give people as much information as possible.
Yes.
So that they can make the decisions that make them feel good.
Yeah.
Hey, if I tell you that I'm offended or don't like when someone does this or says this to me, and you decide to still do that, that's your choice. That is not about me. And then I get to decide how much space and time I share with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it. We don't need to
100%.
shame people for being a certain way. You can just decide if you want to be around them anymore. And if they're not respecting the feedback you give them, again, that's not on you.
Yes. Yeah. And I like applaud you so much because I've learned so much about the limb difference community.
Me too.
Just by like following you. And like we were friends way before I started learning things. I just like never even thought about it. I was like, you do everything I do. We're the same. I like never thought of.
At the same time, when you were telling the story about being at the company we worked at together and them like not getting t-shirts, I wasn't aware of all that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't paying attention to that.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, our friendship has evolved so much since then.
Yeah.
It just makes you realize when you go back, like, you really don't, we assume we know where people are at because we're spending a lot of time around them. Unless you're asking someone, like, how's it going? Or is there anything I can help you with? Like, I've really tried to ask the question, how can I support you?
Yeah.
How can I help you with this? And, like, just offering that open door because I don't always know the questions to ask, but I know how to present myself as open.
Yes.
And I think sometimes it's still hard for people when you say, how can I help you, for them to really give you something.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's hard for me when people are like, how can I support you? I'm like, what?
Please go buy me something
I'll
from
buy you something.
Del Taco. But do you really want to say that?
Never.
Right.
Never.
And so it's kind of a catch-22, but I think as long as you're being more mindful about people, because none of us are walking around like just spewing our actual thoughts. We're all trained to exist in society as a certain way. Mm-hmm. And because of that, we just have to be more diligent about checking in on our friends on a personal level, I think.
No, I think it's really important to be, like, when I'm low and I get a text from you and you're like, hi, how have you been? How can I support you? What can I do for you? Like, even if I'm like, nothing, it's still, I'm like, someone checked in on me and that's a big deal for me. Yeah. Like, because, like, life can feel very lonely and then someone checks in and you're like, okay, no, I'm not alone. This is my brain telling me I'm by myself and everyone hates me. Yeah. And then so like, yes, someone might not say this is what you can do for me, but even just offering that, hey, I'm here for you, what can I do? It's huge. It's huge. Yeah. And also, like, going back to what you said, I feel like we've learned so much from each other. Like, since the beginning of our friendship.
And I feel like we've just realized how similar our situations are. Yeah. Even though they're literally polar opposites.
Yeah. We're completely different. Yeah. In a lot of ways. Yes. But very similar in the same amount.
I think those things that make us different make us similar because we're kind of existing in this world in these, like, paradigms. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, like, it's literally not the same at all and the same all at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
And whenever we're more vulnerable and open up to each other, like, I feel this, like, someone asking to touch your skin, someone's asked to touch my hand. 100%. Can I hold it? And I'm like, this is my body, I guess.
Yeah, please don't touch it. It's just weird. Thank you for asking, but baby, don't ask.
Well, and we can both, like, logically evaluate it enough to be like, okay. Yeah. We're animals, and that was a weird, instinctual kind of behavior. Yeah. But it doesn't need to be excused.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Please. Agreed. No, I completely agree with you. I think there's... Also, I'm learning it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, hey, that makes me uncomfortable. Yeah. It is very hard to do. Yeah. Still, if someone did it to me right now, I'd probably be like, sure.
To me, it's a muscle I have to train and keep active because if I don't practice it, I lose it.
Yes. It's I like to be this person that's like, no, I'm cool. I'm okay with being fat. Yeah, I have no insecurities. I'm like, cool. And then I find myself in situations where I'm like, no, that was great. And then I leave and I'm like, I feel this big. And I'm like, I am nobody. I'm trash. So, like, it's important to, like, look out for your future self and be like, no, I'm going to. And then those moments when I have stood up for myself, I leave and I'm like, I'm my greatest support and I need to be that and I need to keep doing that. And it feels so good to be like, I put my foot down.
And give yourself grace for doing it a little harshly at first. Yeah. tough to find the balance and how to actually deliver it, right?
Yes.
Without being so emotional and without being so defensive. Like, trying to get yourself to the point where you can just calmly respond and, like, have some things in your back pocket or something, you know, that you can use.
Yeah.
Has been very beneficial for me because I'm such a fiery person, or can be such a fiery person, that I'm like, what happened to my hand? What happened to my hand? Whoa, what happened to my hand? Sort of thing. So, I don't know.
No, you're right. You're right. I think the biggest thing that, like, treat everyone with a bit of grace, because I don't think anyone, I mean, some people are terrible, but anyone that have come up to me and said things about my weight in the past, I don't think they're like, she's a piece of shit and I want her to feel like
they
one.
just seriously lack self-awareness.
They literally don't understand. Like, I remember growing up, I would have people, this is so weird now that I think of it, like, instead of, like, hitting me on my arm, they would hit me on my stomach.
What?
And this happened all the time. I remember my young women's leader would do it. It was so weird.
What?
In school, people would do it. It was so weird. It was so weird.
I've never seen anything like that.
And, like, hit me in my stomach to get my attention. And I remember thinking, like, that makes me uncomfortable, first of all.
Also, why is this not happening to anyone else?
It's because I have a large stomach, and people are like, let's hit it. What? To get her attention. You could have hit my shoulder. It's just right there. And I remember thinking, growing up, that was on me. I was like, I shouldn't have had a big stomach that they could easily think of to hit. I know. It doesn't make any sense. It does.
I'm just trying to think, like, whether you had a big toe or something, like.
In what situation is someone like, hey, listen. And I remember thinking it was so normal, because I was like, it probably happened in my whole life like 50 times. Like, it was something that happened often enough that I was like, oh, this makes sense. It's so weird. So weird, right?
That's a phenomenon.
Yeah, I know. There's so many things that I feel like if fat people sat in a room and was like, these are things people have done.
That would be
people
one of
would be
them.
like, shook. There's so many things that I'll tell people and they're like, no one did that to you. I'm like, no. And it does.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe.
That could be a whole nother episode, like things fat people experience. Hey, what's up?
Hey, don't say this.
Hey,
don't do this.
Don't walk up to people in Target and say, do you want to go work out with me?
It's the same with
about you.
Pregnant people. People think they can just touch pregnant people's bellies.
Yeah, it's the same vibe. Yeah, or when they're like, oh.
No, that's my body.
Don't you dare.
Also, even when people touch me on the shoulder, I'm like,
Don't. I know.
Who are you?
Any amount of touching. Like, I was like at my parents' house and my mom touched me. I was like, what are you doing? Hey, no, you have to ask to touch me on the shoulder. I'm like, is this probably a trauma? Everything I do is a trauma response. I like breathe and I'm like, that's a trauma response.
But it's just so presumptuous to assume that someone is wanting to be touched by you or that it's okay.
No. I'm a very like welcoming person to a lot of people, and I think people assume very quickly that they like can cross boundaries, which is, and I don't take it personally, but also I'm like, just because I'm very kind does not mean I'm like, you can touch my stomach if you want.
I am still trying to figure out what about me makes everyone at like dog parks or
let's sit
down next to
stories
this
where
chick.
people just walk up to you and they're like, what's up? It's probably because you're like really pretty and people are like, I've
never felt like I wanted to walk up to some really pretty person and be like, let's ruin their day.
Yeah, no, you're right. Okay, well, you're also
so I don't think it's that one.
Okay.
Trash. I genuinely don't know what it is because I assume I'm out here like this.
I mean, you have really good RBF.
And bags under my eyes that make me look like I've been over it since I was 2. Yeah, I was born with these bad boys, and honestly, I'm not changing anything about it.
But then you have, I said award-winning bags. But also, I'm like, you don't. You just have large eyes.
If I got filler down here, I'd be a different person. I would look not tired ever.
Sometimes I don't even know what I look like. I'll like see a video. I'm like, is that her? Is that me?
I looked in the mirror today.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I look like? When was the last time I looked in the mirror? And I've like taken showers and gotten dressed. I haven't looked at myself.
I never do that. Unless I look bad. And then I'm like, you ugly
what
bitch.
the hell is that?
I walk away. I'm like, you're so freaking ugly. And then I just
this is why we don't leave the house.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I like find myself. And like, Oh, I will scroll through TikTok and like I'm on like 600-pound life TikTok. Like, of course I am. And I'm like, that's me. That's so me. That's what I look like. And I'm like, or like, and it's something I'm like, I really don't know what I look like. I have no idea.
I literally also don't even have pictures of myself from like the last 2 weeks other than this podcast.
Yes.
You can only show your synced photos.
No.
And that's called my Siri.
It's called nudes.
Welcome. So when you have chubby
it.
hands, I'll just give a little, you go like this a lot and you put your, and then it's writing down everything I'm saying and then it's going to respond.
I had to get rid of my Apple Watch.
I can't stand it.
Why do you have it?
Because I always have to look at the time. And I am...
Get a real watch.
Are you kidding me? I don't know how to tell time.
It can be digital.
Oh, yeah. That could work. I do know how to tell time, but I'm just like, the effort of being like, where's the hand on the clock? That's just too much for me. I need to look and be like, 1:36.
Do you have sight issues?
No.
It's just learning how to...
It's just my brain is not here for
And
it.
the Roman numerals.
Oh my gosh. See
well, they don't have to be Roman numerals.
And those little number thingies.
No, they can be numbers.
No,
let's get you a digital clock. Honestly, it can just be like one of those kids ones.
GoFundMe, digital clock, calculator. No, I like it. It's just like, it just, it's chubby hands for me and the missing nails for me.
Me too.
That's a good one. She's a comedian, folks.
Wannabe. That's fine.
I remember one time someone told me to be a comedian and I went home and I started writing jokes.
Nope.
They were terrible. It was like something about like, I was like, tell childhood trauma stories. That was most of them. And I'd be like,
the joke.
Tell that time that teacher threw a desk at you. And I'm like, people will think it's so funny. It's like, because I would like tell these terrible stories and people would like lose their mind laughing so hard. And I was like, I'm hilarious.
I could probably do stand-up.
Yeah.
If I did crowd work.
Yeah.
Because I can riff off of like the situation in front of me.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, I just farted on camera in my brain.
I was like, did you?
No.
Wow, I didn't hear.
I brain farted on camera.
Yeah, brain farted. Yeah, for sure.
Again.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And we all do. It's all right.
When I try to tell stories.
Yeah. No, it's true. I'm pretty good at telling stories, but I talk too damn much. Like I'll make it the longest story and it happened in 30 seconds.
Yeah, or I just put in details, or I start another story within the story.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna one time, and then I'm like, what? Nah, hey, that was
that TikTok of those friends that can't just finish a story or start a story.
Yeah, yep, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The amount of stories I have that I'm like, this is so problematic. And then I'm like, I'm going to tell it to a whole group of people I just met. And then they're all like looking at me like, she needs therapy so bad.
The only time that's gone well for me is when I told a story about when I shit my pants. And
what a good...
it was at my friend's memorial. Listen. We meet up once a year to have like a memorial because he died when we were 19.
Okay.
And everyone was just in the kitchen telling stories, and somehow we got on the topic of shitting your pants.
And you're like, hold on. This is my kind of conversation.
I have a really good one, and it happened last week.
Done that like 6 times.
Oh no. Oh my gosh. This is the most chaotic episode of my life.
I know, I'm so sorry.
No.
I feel like there was no structure and we're just like, anyway, really bad trauma. And then it's like, I shit my fucking pants. I can't. Louise like, I'm ready to fucking...
I'm getting sweaty.
Me too. I'm
not going to tell it right here, but the only
please.
time that telling a story went well for me in a crowd of people was when I told the story of almost pooping my pants.
Oh, that's good.
During the pandemic.
I've never...
And listen.
We all pooped our pants in the pandemic. Am I right? Comment below if you pooped your pants. 5,000 comments.
I am a firm believer. If you say you haven't shit your pants
You're
as an
lying.
adult, you are lying.
Lying.
Out
Del
your-
Taco drive-thru? Yeah, I've done it. Yeah, I've been there. I've had to stare at someone right in the eyes as I accidentally just shit my pants. I hate myself.
I've been on the freeway coming home from my parents' house and I'm just screaming.
One time, I was at a stoplight
No.
and I make eye contact with the person next to me and I pick up a bag and just start vomiting as the eye contact was being made, and they were laughing so hard, and I'm like red in the face, puking my guts out, and they're over there like losing their mind, and I was like crying, tears down my face as I was vomiting. I just don't know why I didn't break eye contact. That I think I should have been like, I'm just like as they're just like, what is going on? And that's when I realized we're all the same.
Yes.
They must have done that before.
And that's when I realized everyone has done it. Because if I've done it that many times, everyone's done it at least once.
They have, and they're lying. I've straight up asked people before, I'm like, have you ever shit your pants in the past 5
I have
years?
too, and they lie straight
like,
to my face.
Yeah, and they're like, no. I was like, you're lying. You're lying to me. Thanks for coming to the podcast. We're talking about shitting our pants in the last 5 years.
I can't.
I entered a Tinder giveaway. I know. You're gooped and gagged. Yeah, I know. I entered a Tinder giveaway. I'm not on Tinder. I hate Tinder with my whole heart.
Okay.
But I got it for this giveaway because they were giving out $10,000 to 10 people. 100 people. Sorry. And it was Meg the Stallion. And I was like,
Oh.
So I entered. I get a message from Tinder. And it's like, you're in the finals.
Was this a scam?
No, it was actually Tinder. It was on Instagram, and they were like, hey, we saw your submission. You're in the finals for the $10,000. So my dumbass. I max out all my credit cards. I make an Amazon wish list called Tinder Money.
I don't understand.
This is how manifesting goes wrong. I'm like, I'll just pay it back when I get my Tinder money.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I didn't get it.
That's called being overzealous.
I didn't win. And I remember being like, this must be a mistake. I don't know what to do. I got $8,000 in credit card debt now, and I'm like, shit. I put in my Amazon cart an electronic toaster with like a screen, and I was like,
I'll pay
buying
myself
that.
back.
Mama's buying that toaster.
So do you have like a tech house now? Because
Yeah,
of the
like,
8,000?
I was like, this was the Tinder money that I never paid back. Sorry, free money
I
card.
think you should send this video into Tinder and be
And
like,
you owe me $10,000.
you made me believe I was actually going to win this.
Listen, I'm delusional, and you need to understand that when you message me saying I'm in the finals, I already won. The money's in my bank account. Yeah, it was really sad. I still have the Amazon wish list because I'm like, maybe it's coming. This was 2 years ago.
I want to like post it as a picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can people I don't know. How can GoFundMe for Rachel
to pay back her credit card debt? Not my dumbass
I'll have to
charge.
loop myself in there because I got it too.
You know, it's okay. And the thing that's sad is like most of them were paid off. They were into it. My credit score was in the 700s.
She's like, I could get $10,000.
Guess I'm gonna
or
charge it.
I could burn 8,000.
And that's what I did. And I don't regret it. I regret it. It's
The interest is saying you regret it.
My interest, and they're saying, "Hey, sweetie, what's going on here?" And I'm like, "I won the Tinder giveaway.
You
just never saw the
almost
money."
got rid of this, and now you locked us in for years.
Yeah, and then I deleted Tinder after that because I was like, "You bitches, you didn't do this."
That's pretty on brand for Tinder.
Yeah, I know.
You get
They
really excited
promise
and
me
then
something, and then they pull the rug out from under me. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. That's accurate. I get that. I get it.
It's what everyone on Tinder has done to me.
Yeah,
So.
no, Tinder for women is better because women aren't as mean.
Okay.
Well.
Well.
Some are. But not about my physical attributes. They're more like, I'm going to lure you in and make you believe that I like you. And then I'm going to be like, hey, I'm not really looking for dating right now. And I'm like, no, me neither. And
yeah.
dating. ooh, what?
Yuck.
But like men are like brutal. Like Tinder for a chubby person with men, I'm like, you are mean. I remember when I was 18, I got Tinder for the first time, and this guy matched with me, and then messaged me and said, do you actually think anyone would ever like you when you're that fat? And I remember being like,
your social media profile has been revoked.
Yeah.
You are not allowed on the internet after that.
I didn't know how to do that. It was the first time I ever had Tinder, so I just cried and deleted my app. And I remember being like, I wish I could go back and be like, yeah, I do. Thank you for the feedback, though. Are you okay? It was just some guy holding a fish. He's like,
which one?
Every guy on Tinder, which one? I catch this huge bass in my daddy's lake.
But I can't date you because you're fat.
You're fat. And unfortunately, I'm looking for a little skinny one.
Also, the way he posed it as a question.
Yeah. And then I remember being like, you're such a mean person. And then I just deleted it because I didn't get a Tinder for like 5 years after that. And then I did, and then it didn't go well again. Like, people were like, hey, you're too fat for me. I'm like, why did you match with me if I'm too fat for you?
Just so they could send hate mail.
Yeah, it's literally just to be like, hey, you're fat. I'm like, oh my, no shit.
Hey, are you afraid of being fat or something?
I'm
because
like,
this isn't an issue for me.
Yeah,
it's only...
like, we're okay. I'm okay. But then women, no one's ever made a comment. So I'm like, everyone should just date women. It's easier. Or, in your case, a good person, which... Sorry, those don't exist. So, but happy.
I manufactured him, so that's my secret.
From a factory. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I don't know. I'm not here for men, which is exciting. It's good to know. Finally.
Yeah. Well, I think I got to the point in my 20s where I was like, what am I doing based on like confusing. People's idea that I should do, and what am I doing for like what I want to do?
Yes.
And now that I'm doing it based on what I want to do,
it's a game
I've
changer.
lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's just different, and you have to find yourself. Like, this is what our 20s are about.
I know.
I'm not going to be shamed for trying to find myself before I'm 30.
No.
I'd rather do that than find myself at 40.
Yeah. I'm like, this is fine. Even in your 30s, I'm like, I hope to know myself by the time I'm 40. That's like my goal. I'm like, I hope to be fully into my own skin by the time I'm 40. But if you're not, that's okay. Like, it's never too late. But I'm like, I love that I'm figuring this part of myself out and being okay to figure it out. Like, I didn't even realize this until like I left the church and I was like, I'm going to start dating. And then I kissed a man and I said,
nope.
I'd rather die than do that again. So I was like, no. And then I like started going on dates with women and I was like, this is like automatically connection. And I remember thinking like, I'm so behind. This isn't real. I have like this homophobia against myself where I'm like, you're not gay enough. You're not queer enough to be, because you're so late to the game. Because like so many queer people know they're queer when they're like 8 or 9. And I remember thinking, like, I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have known who I was when I was that age.
How can you... I mean, I know some people find that out even though they are in, like, really suppressive situations. Yeah. But some people, the suppressive situation keeps you from knowing that.
No, absolutely. And I think also my focus was my weight. I wasn't thinking about who I was going to marry. I was just so focused on my appearance 24/7 that the thought of, like, who am I actually attracted to wasn't an option because I wasn't accepted by anyone anyway. So there was literally no point in thinking about who I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
So I think once I got over, I remember it was after my weight loss surgery when I started to feel more confident because society told me I could. Mm-hmm. And I realized, I was like, wait, this is who I am. And then now that I'm like gaining some weight back and like I'm still able to realize I still deserve it at any weight that I am. Like, I still deserve to be with someone, even if I'm 500 pounds.
Yes.
Like, that doesn't matter.
The only reason you were thinking about a spouse or a partner was based off of your weight, and would you be able to attain one?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So, I think now that I'm, like, I'm still large, and that's okay, and I am still looking for someone to be, like, have as a partner, and it's okay for me, and I know, like, what kind of person I want. It's like this whole new field for me.
Don't you think it would be so much easier to find a partner as an adult if growing up people would have been like, let's teach you how to be in tune with yourself and your body. And when you're in situations, you can understand what you're reacting to or how you're feeling.
Yes, that would have been great.
Instead of trying to suppress any feeling you have and have people check off boxes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Because I got to a point a couple years ago where I had a friend who, she just really knew herself. Like, she could be like, oh, if I eat this, I'll feel this way. Or I need this amount of sleep, or I'll feel this way. And I'm like, I don't know myself like that. No. I do not know myself.
No.
And I
still don't.
Have been working with my therapist on, like, I would love to get to the point where I just know myself and I'm solid here, that when something happens, I know I can identify it and I can solve it for myself.
Yeah.
And I'm getting better at it. Like, I know that I need some sort of resolution to things to move through them. And I know now that I'm not dissociating from my body so much, I'm able to be like, oh, this exercise actually helped me feel stronger last week, instead of it's just a sore muscle and I need to keep training it until it looks like this.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think we need to start teaching kids the more fundamentals instead of the, like, superficial idea of things. It's none of their business. They shouldn't have to be worrying about a life partner. Be a kid and figure out what you are and who you are.
Yes.
That's why I'm 100%. Going into schools and talking and being like, you don't have to decide who you want to be. Mm-mm. You can be anything you want, and it can change from this day to the next day.
Yes.
It can change by the hour. It's up to you.
Yes.
And it seems like as a kid, we are existing in other people's worlds. Mm-hmm. And so, but we're not taught how to live within the boundaries we are given. We're just taught, be whatever everyone is telling you to be and behave the way everyone's telling you to behave. Yeah. Instead of finding out who you are, what you like within those restrictions. Yes. And then when you're out of that at 18, it's not this big, oh, I'm on my own, I don't know what to do, what am I feeling? Yeah. You've been taught that your whole life, instead of like, no, be like us who are raising you. Mm-hmm. And then if you don't like that at 18 and you rebel, then you're completely starting from scratch.
Yes, I know. I feel like for a lot of people, it's becoming to where, like, your 20s or like your teens. Yes. I'm like, I feel like I'm starting to date. I'm starting to, like, I really feel like at the age of 28, I'm just like starting. I'm literally like 17 years old, and I'm like, I'm going on my first date, and I'm nervous. Like, I went on my first date when I was 25. I never went on dates when I was in high school or anything. Like, I went on one, but the boy made it very known that he had asked 6 other girls, and they said no, and he had to bring someone. And it was just some guy in my ward. And that was like the only one really. And so I was like, I remember thinking, like, this is my first date. This is such a big deal. This is crazy. Like, I'm so behind. I'm so, like, people my age have, like, 4 kids, which, wow, that's fine.
Personally.
But, like, not for me. And so I'm like, it was just really hard being at the age I was and starting to date, starting to find myself, and I'm like, I wish when I was 10 years old, someone would have said, like, it's okay to start to express yourself, to love yourself, to be okay with who you are, to stop looking at everything you eat, stop looking at yourself in the mirror and criticizing yourself. Just like, this is who I am and it's fine. And if you don't like it, that's cool. Like, oh, that would have been a game changer. But, I mean, it's hard to look back at your life and be like, I wish this would have happened. I just think it's important to, like for me, I'm not probably going to have kids, and that's totally fine. But those that do have kids, like, make sure you're creating a safe space for your child to be whatever version of themselves that they want to be, and not a copy paste of you. Like, great, you married a man and you're loving it and you're having fun. Your child might not want to be married at all. They might be asexual and not be interested in anyone. They might be queer and not know what they like at the time, and that's okay. And you need to create a space where they can experiment and be that person and, like, try to find out who they are.
Yeah. Help them figure out who they are.
Right? I'm like, see, like, don't assume, like, before you have a crush on a boy at school. Do you have a crush on someone or person that you like? Is it a boy or a girl? Is it...
And teach them to, like, look for qualities in that person they like, not just for their appearance.
Yes. And, like, for me, I've realized recently, like, that I find myself sometimes feeling a bit non-binary, where I'm like, I'm not feeling like a she her today. Like that doesn't feel right to me. And sometimes I'm like, I would love to go by they for a second and see what it's like, but it's hard when you're surrounded by people because you don't want to like impact them at all. You're like, I don't want to be hard on you. I had someone recently say that like calling someone they them is really hard. That doesn't really make sense anyway, which I was like, what? And it's like really difficult to call someone they and them as a single person.
No, it's not.
And I was like,
okay. That's a choice.
And at this time, like the person I was speaking to didn't know I was having these like personal thoughts of like, oh, I don't know what pronoun I want to go by. And I remember thinking, you're right. Yeah, that would be hard. And I shouldn't even try. And it's like been me adjusting, like, yeah, right now my pronouns are she, they, but like maybe in the future, like that's something I would want to experience or find out about myself if that's comfortable for me. And like creating a space for other people to be like, if you decide that, I will 100% call you that is so important. Even like as your child to be like, hey, if you ever don't feel like she, her is appropriate for you, please tell me. And I'm happy to adjust. Like,
it's no different than my nephew wanting to be called, I'm not going to say his real name, like, say his name is David.
Yeah.
If we've been calling him Dave his whole life, and he decides, hey, can you guys start calling me David? Address me as David. It is no different.
No.
It's no different. And you just adjust. And if it takes a little bit, so like my family was just so used to calling him Dave.
Yeah.
That it... like, we got hung up sometimes, and he was a child, and he still gave compassion as to, like, if they're correcting themselves, they're trying. Yes. And, like, oh, sorry, David.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you can see that. But also, I was thinking, it's also up to your friends and family to offer that inclusive space.
Yes.
And safe place. Like, when you just said that, my brain jumped to, well, if you don't want to do it on a big scale, but you want to practice it when we're just us.
Yes.
And then... yeah. Or like a small group of your friends so that you can test it out and they can practice.
Yeah. No, it's true.
It's only a win-win.
Yeah. No, it's true. And like, I remember telling my brother and sister, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking this way. And they're like, well, okay, well, if you ever want to start going by that, please tell us. And we would 100% hop on board. And I remember like thinking, okay, maybe right now in my life, I'm not at a place where I feel comfortable doing that. But it's nice to know that if I ever like was like, hey guys, this is something I want, that they'd be like, perfect. And there would be, people are going to make mistakes in those. Like, it's common to think a certain way and it just come out. And then you're like, oh, my bad. I've done that to a lot of friends. I have a couple of friends that are non-binary and I find myself using he, she pronouns or something, and I'll like correct myself immediately. I'm so sorry, and then correct.
Well, it's habitual, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, and they have so much compassion for me. Like, oh, it's okay. Thank you for correcting yourself.
And if you've ever learned another language, you realize that language barriers are actually existing in English in the United States right now.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with making mistakes, as we've said.
Yes.
But if you're not willing to speak the same language as people, you're gonna have misunderstandings.
Yeah.
So we're trying to help people cut down on the misunderstandings and just be more cautious of people. Like, right? Like, you're at a grocery. It's the same sort of deal for me. Like, I'm not gonna tell every person checking me out at the cash register about my hand.
Yeah.
But if I got to know them a little better and they genuinely asked, I'd be happy to tell them. And then that just makes my situation easier too.
Yeah.
But it's like, obviously, if someone in passing where you don't know that person, you're not interacting with them, and you default to what you're used to as she, her, or he, she, that's okay. That's not what people are getting upset about.
Yes.
People are getting upset about or offended by or hurt by the intentional disregard and the intentional attempt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're doing just that and you're still kind of on the fence of whether you believe it or not, you don't have to tell people whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
Just do as you would. I think, sorry, this is me trying to tell people what to do again. I'm trying to offer suggestions. I think it would be best to have your own beliefs, like we talked about. You can have your own beliefs and other people have their beliefs and you can still coexist. You don't have to see eye to eye. But to interact with one another in a positive society, we have to care about the other person's feelings.
Yes.
And if they are telling you they feel bad when you misgender them, you don't care about their feelings if you don't try to help change that language.
Yes.
In that situation. We're not telling you to revamp your whole vocabulary or everything.
No.
Give a shit about people.
Just like respect. Respect them and how they want to be represented and how like they want to be addressed. I do things a lot where like there'll be the waiter at our table and I'm like, yeah, she's so great. And then I'll correct myself and be like, they, because I don't know what they want to be.
It's presumptuous.
But I'm like, visually in my mind, I'm like, that's a girl.
That's what we've been taught.
But I'm like, that's bold for me to assume that I should say she when I'm like, I don't actually know you at all. So for me to assume that you go by she, her is honestly not it for me. And that's something I realize I do all the time, especially growing up. I saying yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and no, sir, and yes, sir. I find myself in situations where I'm like, yes, ma'am. And then I'm like, there's a chance that you do not want me to call you ma'am or dress you as a female. And I'm over there like, hey, ma'am. And then I'm like, that's wrong of me. And I will find myself correcting myself like, hey, this needs to, I know it's a form of respect where like I grew up in Mississippi.
Traditionally.
So, like, it's a form of respect, but I'm like my mom and dad, I can say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and yes, sir, no,
because
sir.
You know their pronouns.
I'm fully aware of what they want to be called. But I'm like, for a random lady at the grocery store, me saying a random lady at the grocery store, random person at the grocery store is something I'm having to rewire in my brain of like, that's maybe not appropriate. You don't know. And like for some people, it's like, that's insane. And I've heard people argue it like, that's stupid. You can tell what someone is. And
are they the same people though that are still using the R word?
Yeah, absolutely same people. And so I'm like, it's just a form of respect for me to not assume someone. And I'm like, when they address themselves as a certain way, kind of like you brought up your hand. Never in like the first, I never even talked to you about it until you brought it up to me. Because I'm like, in what situation am I going to be like, tell me about that?
Especially when it doesn't seem to be like on their mind.
Yeah. I'm like, they're not talking about it unless you talked about it with me and was like, this is hard for me. I want to talk to you about it.
Or like, can you help me with this when we go do this?
Exactly. Like, I never even thought twice about being like, I'm going to ask her about that. Because honestly, never even saw it.
It's none of your business.
Yeah. I'm like, why would I ever bring that up to her? Because I'm like, she's not bringing it up. Why should I bring it up? But if for some reason you're like, hey, I need your help with this, or I honestly, even then, I don't think I'd be like, you want to tell me about that now? I'd be like, yeah, you need help. Okay, I'll help you. What? I need help with a lot of things too. And it just blows my mind how people like to make assumptions and like put themselves in a place where I'm like, that's not appropriate. Or maybe let's have a little more respect for someone else's being.
I feel like there's a lot of people walking the earth just assuming things about everyone.
And then that they're correct for those assumptions, which I'm like...
Which is blanket statement-y, it's stereotyping, it's just perpetuating negative behaviors when really we're just finding out thanks to social media and the internet how different we all are from each other.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But that just means it's not as black and white as it used to be, right? As we pretended it was.
Yeah. No, it's true.
And now that more and more people are willing to be vulnerable and say, this bothers me, this doesn't bother me, or this is just us. But hopefully this empowers other people to make their stance on like how they want to be treated and hold to it, you know?
Yeah. Also, like, if there's people around you that's like, I'm not going to call you they, them.
I saw a TikTok of a girl spraying her mom.
I saw the same thing every time they missed it. And she's like, that makes me feel this big. And she was like, that's what you're doing to them as well.
They also feel that big when you misgender them.
Yeah. And
that's so like, real.
And I was like, that's accurate.
Yeah.
If you're talking to someone and they've asked you to call them a certain pronoun and you're deliberately ignoring it.
That's like being like, if someone just decided to call you Fat Rachel.
Yeah.
Or me, Chelsea, the girl with one finger.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I'm just Chelsea. Can you just call me Chelsea?
Uh-huh.
And they choose to call me the girl with one finger.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's not for me. I know.
And that's so blatantly rude, and it's the same principle.
Yes, it is 100%. And I've thought about it, like, there's still, like, even in, like, my workplace, I'm like, I go by she, her, and I don't think I'll ever try to go by she, they in the workplace, because I'm like, unfortunately, we've created an environment, and especially in the state of Utah, where it's like, it's going to hurt you rather than
Here's the
you.
thing that I don't understand how it's going to last, though. They call it Silicon Slopes.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley. I'm not super familiar. I could bet money that it doesn't have the religious chokehold on Silicon Valley that it does on Silicon Slopes.
Yeah. No.
And that religious chokehold is what's perpetuating the terrible work environments.
Yes.
Because if you don't fit into their standards, they're always going to find something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And you're always going to be the minority. So it's even true. Speaking up will get you fired.
Yeah. No, it's definitely looked down upon to, like, stand up for yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
Or
if you're the one that's speaking out and everyone's messaging you, thanks for saying that in the meeting, but because you're the minority, it's not going to come across well.
No. Yeah. And I find myself, like, when people are offended by, like, diet culture in the workplace or something, they come to me and they're like, this was really hard for me. How do you, like, handle it? How do you... And I'm like, oh, you just have to say something. And then they don't. And, like, my mama bear comes out and I'm like, I'll say something. I'll do something. And then I'm, like, the problem. Because I'm like, oh. And even if I'm like, other people feel this way. They're like, you're done. You're gone. You're creating a toxic work environment. And I'm like,
you're not being positive.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm being a safe place for people that don't feel comfortable coming to others. Like,
I actually came to you guys and said, hey, if anyone is wanting some insight on how to recover from a crazy mental health crisis, I'm happy to share my story and connect with these people. Psych.
Hey, that's actually not going to work for us. You got to head
out.
But,
like, you're like, I'm just trying to actually help your company. And you're wanting it to stay corporate.
Yes.
We don't have anything bad here. People are not people. They leave their shit at the door. Like, that's impossible for people to do.
Yeah, if you want people to show up 8 hours, 9 hours a day, then you need to create a space where they feel comfortable to be themselves. And if you don't, then they shouldn't have to show up. And that's like...
or be fired.
Yeah, or be fired.
For vocalizing their discomfort in your created environment.
Absolutely. I'm like, I get these places where I'm like, I want to be a business owner just so I can be like, everyone show up as you are, and we will actually...
And what you need to do is start consulting with me. And we just need to walk into these places and be like, let us, evaluate your workplace for 48 hours.
Oh, that would
We can
be
come
amazing.
to you and give you actual solutions to the dynamics you're having here that are causing stress. But it's the people who aren't experiencing it making the rules or following
100%.
the guidelines, which are literally just legal guidelines.
It's just cis white people that and I'm no judgment to thinner people, but thinner body people or people with no limb difference or people that's never, like, I'm not saying you've never had issues, but like you haven't experienced things in other people's shoes. It's important to get a perspective of someone that's like, this could be hurting people.
I worked at a tech company for almost 2 years, typing all day long, and I have 6 fingers, and not one person asked me if I wanted an accommodation. I didn't know. That was my first, like, corporate job. I didn't know I was able to ask for accommodations.
I didn't know that either.
No. It wasn't until I went to my hand therapist where she's like, oh, and my other, like, hand specialist, he was like, I have 10 fingers and I type so much I don't want arthritis. I speak into this thing that was made for people who need adaptions, and it's saving his fingers. And they all helped me. They're like, yeah, we shouldn't have, like, round doorknobs. We should have lever doorknobs because that only helps everyone
I did
keep from getting arthritis.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's this technology out there, and we're talking about making it to $1 billion next year, and you can't offer me some technology to help me do my job better. I'm writing emails and typing all day.
Even me. I remember, like, just thinking, like, oh, she's badass, she's fast. Like, you honestly did the work faster than I did.
I put myself in a college typing class in high school so that I could be at the same level as everyone. Because I didn't know ADA accommodations were a thing. I grew up in a small town where no one asked me for accommodations at my elementary, junior high, or high school. I did. Yeah. I accommodated to everyone else. And that's why I didn't know I was disabled until I was 24.
Yeah. Sorry.
Because everyone just told me I was different. They didn't tell me I had any resources or ways to make my life not as hard. And I just had to, like, deal with having an achy finger sometimes. I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. You're just, like, working 80 times as hard for the same results as someone else. And, like, you weren't given an opportunity.
And this is a multi-million-dollar company.
Easier. Yeah. And that's not fair. But the thing is, people in those higher positions don't think about that. They're like, you know what? She's adjusted her whole life. She'll keep doing it. Instead of being like, I want you to feel safe here. And what can we do to make you feel happier and work better and feel comfortable here?
I could have gotten so much more work done.
Yeah. Also, even though you were ahead of the game, there was nothing wrong with your work.
But I could have been even better.
You could have been more comfortable. You could have felt more welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
If they
more
were like,
seen.
Yeah. If they were like, hey, what can we do to make your workplace better? Because we care about you as a person. And it's okay that we are going to adjust a couple things to make that easier for you.
Yeah.
Like, why is that so unheard of for people?
Well, and it's exactly what I'm dealing with right now. Like, if you hire someone with a disability, that almost, like, not to put people with disabilities above people without disabilities, we just have such a unique perspective.
Yes.
And we can see things that people who aren't encountering resistance can't see.
Yeah.
And why would you not want that in your company?
100%. 100%. And I think here's the things you're saying is so similar to like, for example, at that company we worked at, they had booths. Remember? I could never fit in the booths. And I remember thinking, like, they could have just taken out one booth and made this a bit bigger or something like that. And I remember thinking, like, I was the issue because I couldn't fit in the booths.
But when they came in and did this elaborate interior design for a workspace that's literally a full floor and has over 150 employees, you didn't think about the accessibility issue for everyone, because there were also doors there that anyone who was a wheelchair user would not have been able to get into those little rooms to have phone calls.
Yeah.
So then they just opt to no privacy when they take a call?
Yes, exactly. And I remember thinking this, like, we're the problem. If we can't fit into your workplace, I'm the problem. I need to adjust myself. But, like, I'm like, no, you could have actually made these bigger. Or you could have made this more accommodating.
Imagine if they would have taken you onto the clothing team.
Oh.
They could have been offering a way more inclusive line ahead of the game. I know.
I tried so
hard. But
hard.
now that it's 2022 and they're doing it because they had to, if you would have just relied on the employees that you had at the moment and valued what their input was, you wouldn't have to be doing it retroactively. No. You would have been one of the first companies.
Which is huge.
Yeah, and would probably save your...
Everyone's trying to catch up and like, oh, we're so size inclusive, which I'm like, baby, going up to 3X is not size inclusive.
It's so brand new.
Yeah, I'm like, you need to go up to a 6X or 7X before I'm like, that's badass. Like Yitty with Lizzo goes up to a 6X. And I love wearing Yitty because I'm like, she is creating a space for larger bodies to be like, this is a platform, like I can shop here. And also the way she does it is 6X to extra small. Like she,
I was going to say, the fact that we could go in and find the same outfit
is crazy.
Is amazing. Yes. It's beautiful.
I love it. Ugh. Yeah, that like we can shop at the same space. But I'm like, there's so long that I'm like.
And have you shopped Yitty in person?
No, I've never been to
There's a fashion place location. You should go.
I have to go. Okay, great.
They size everything together.
Wow.
So you're not having to shop in a different section.
You see something and you're like, I want this in my size. Yeah. I can't even comprehend that.
I remember when I was working at Athleta, we would have people, I was working there when we got our new rollout of the body inclusive mannequins.
Yeah.
Game changer.
I remember that. I saw that on the news. People were like Athleta with these plus size model
literally
mannequins, and I was like, and it was wild to me. I was like,
next step is disabled mannequins.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Any sort of disabled representation.
I saw one actually. I think did you post it where they had a
prosthesis?
Yeah, on one of their legs, and a mannequin did. And I was
really?
Like, yeah.
Ooh.
And I don't know where it was. I have to look at it, but I was just scrolling and I was like, okay, this is new.
And I get that like disabilities and limb differences vary so much, and so it's hard to have all representation, but noting that there's representation of different accessibilities is huge.
Yes. Agreed.
But I had someone come in and they were like, what is this, a torrid?
Ew.
And I said, you can leave.
Yeah, please leave.
Either I said it or my coworker said it, but she goes, you can leave. Number one, I will say, the people who work at Athleta stand behind it.
I love that.
And good. When you're actively helping all these people coming into your store who are like, I don't know, what can I try on? What's good for me? Like, you're getting to see that like human side of people. Yeah. So when people like that walk in who are very clearly not our target demographic, you can leave.
Yeah.
Change your attitude, you can come back in here.
Yeah, thank you. I know, I remember, it's also weird to me that they still have, like, stores solely for fat people.
But they had to.
Yeah. No, because I had to shop at Lane Bryant when I was in 8th grade because where else was I going to shop? Like, there's online stores that go up to, like, size 8X. And I remember thinking, this is wild. Are we taking forever?
I don't even care. This is my podcast, and people can stop it if they don't want to listen to it.
You're right. Stop it. Don't. But yeah, so I remember thinking, like, all my friends were, like, going to Aeropostale and Hollister and Target even. Because at the time, Target didn't.
It wasn't the same.
And also, Target only has up to like 3X now. It's not like super 4X and something.
Target is very over hyped.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed. I'm like, oh great, this fits me. But it's a stretch. It's a 4X, but I'm like
it's also
barely.
Terrible cut and material.
Yes. Thank you. Also, everything. It's so funny when it's plus size. It looks like you were in the 1920s.
Yeah, and I feel like every time I walk in there, it's like walking into a less glittery limited too.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Recently? Like the last couple of years.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I agree. And I feel like also, I just like feel sad for people that have like had to adjust to their world they live in based off of like, this store isn't for you, but this one is. But, like, imagine a world where, like, I could walk into Aeropostale when I was in 10th
They would make a lot more money because, actually, the mass majority of people don't fit in the sizes that are out.
I'm like, I think, like, the size in America is, like, normal.
14?
Yeah, 14, I think.
The amount of money spent is so much more.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
And I'm having to explain that to companies. I'm like, all right, well, you have 1/4 of the world's population identifies as disabled. Mm-hmm. And then you have all of their friends and family who also support brands who see people like that.
Yes.
And they have incomes as well. So you're getting that demographic and everyone who loves and cares about them and who's also an advocate.
Yeah.
They're all coming into you. Whereas before, you were just limiting yourself to people who fit this exclusive range or whatever. You could have so much more money as a business if you just sold to everyone.
It would be crazy. It'd be crazy. The fact
Do you not want money?
The fact that we've taken this long to like change, like the shoes that you don't have to bend over, you know, the fact that happened within the last year. I'm like,
I was just watching a documentary that put the like date on inclusive sizing. 2015. Oh. It wasn't until that Victoria's Secret campaign.
Yeah.
And then the brand, I'm having trouble remembering, chose to do a counter campaign that was like Not Your Angel. And that was the first like
I don't even remember that.
Inclusive sizing campaign where it was more than just your size 2 models in the fits and the photos. 2015.
That makes me sad.
It hasn't even been 10 years since we've been offering everyone clothing. And
I mean,
again,
it makes sense.
It's not even where it needs to be.
No, I'm like, I follow a lot of fat creators that are like very large bodied, and they have made so many, because to me, I'm like, if it goes up to a 3X, that's good. And then I'm like, these people are like, no, if it doesn't go up to at least a 7X, you are not including a lot of people.
And it needs to be the people who have a large following and a big voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so cool to be like, and it just, and people are just like, you're wanting, perpetuating or whatever obesity, and you want pushing obesity down everyone's throats and all this. And I'm like, no, companies that do this are saying whatever form of you that you are, we want you here. Like, and that is such a crazy concept for a lot of people. But I'm like, I don't, to me, if I see a company, like for example, I never shopped Fabletics or anything. But now that Yitty's on and they go up to 6X, I'm like, I have so much Yitty stuff. And I tell everyone I know to buy Yitty. I'm like, Lizzo, badass, but also Yitty.
Do you want to know how much that marketing costs? Free.
Yeah, I know. Me just being like, hey guys, Yitty. So good.
I support them, and I'm going to just advertise for them.
Yeah. And a lot of fat people do this. I've seen so many fat creators in Yitty stuff and I'm sure maybe Yitty sent them to them, but
who cares?
It doesn't matter.
No.
Like, they can fit into it. And they're showing all of their fat followers, hey, if you want to shop somewhere, this place has your size. Yeah. It's rad. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, if companies just like spend a little bit more money, I get it, it's more fabric. Oh no. If they spend a little
let
bit.
me tell you, fabric's not the issue. They've got it out their ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the I will say the biggest struggle we had as a store that went from offering a certain amount of product to offering even more product was just the space.
Yeah.
So now that all these stores that have leases that have accommodated for small sizing and small amounts of product, you're getting in double the amount of product. You have to fill the space. You have to be more creative that way. But going forward, when businesses get new leases, they will allot for more space because they have more product on their list that's just constantly coming in.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's something we all need to be a bit cautious of, and understanding the business behind it is like, they made these stores for this amount of space and this amount of product. Do stores need to adapt and do what they can in the meantime? Yes.
Yeah.
It's not putting big bags.
Yeah.
Of clothes for you to dig through in the middle of the room.
No. Oh, well.
Which is also not accessible anyway.
That's
but I digress. I think it's so new, it's so fresh, and people need to remember that. We're not asking everyone to be perfect. Just give a shit and care.
Try. Even just, I know, and I always hate when like, they don't have it in stores, and that's something, like you said,
but that's a pain point.
Yeah, and I hope in the next 5 years or so that changes. But I even just have it online. Like, why can't you just have it online?
Or go the extra mile as that store. If you don't have it in store, order it in, request it to come in, even if you have to order it online and you put it on your online exclusive. If that person doesn't end up buying it, you're going the extra distance. You're making that experience better.
Yeah, I know. I remember I worked at J. Crew, and they go up to 3X, but their 3X is like a 2X. But I was so excited because they had the size online. But like for employees, for like a discount, you get better discounts when it's in store for like clearance and stuff. So I would have to order online, pay my own money, pay full price, and then it would have to be shipped to the store, and then I could get a discount for it. And I remember being like, no one else has to go through this.
Yeah, no thanks.
No, and it was just like, that's how we have to do it. And I remember being like, okay, but no one else has to do this. Why do I have to do this?
I'm a chronic feedback giver.
Yeah, I know. I don't do that. I'm just like, bye.
If I was in that situation, I'd be like, you know how terrible this is for my experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You should put this up the ladder and let people know what my experience is. And I'd like to tell you in person. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go tell you on the internet.
Yeah.
And then that's going to stick. And you're going to have to, like, ask me later to change it. And, like, I'd love to just give feedback in the moment.
Yeah.
And, like, my card got declined somewhere. It was definitely not my card, and it was the chip reader. This woman goes, you probably don't have enough on it. And I go, that's presumptuous of you.
Oh, no, she didn't.
And she was like, well, that's usually what happens when this happens. And I go, I, like, was too stunned to speak. I was like,
would not know what to say.
So she goes, well, maybe just try this one. So she takes me over to her computer, and we do it. And then she goes, oh, it must have been the machine. And I go, yeah, you don't have to say stuff like that when you don't know the full story. And she's like, sorry. And then I just walked out. I didn't make a scene. I didn't, like, say anything mean to her. I let her know, that's very presumptuous of you.
Wow, you're so nice.
No. I just like, do it now. Like, I don't even think about it. I'm just like, that was presumptuous. And then she got to think about it when I left. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to do lots of... And listen, I'm not putting myself up on a pedestal. I just think...
But
if you have an issue with something, it is okay to practice.
Yes.
Letting people know, because they can't get better unless you help them understand your perspective.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
So now that woman probably won't ever do that to someone.
Let's hope. Yeah.
If I wouldn't have said anything, she might do that to more people just because she doesn't know.
That didn't have the money. Like, what if they really didn't have the money in their account?
Yeah.
That could really... if someone said that to me when I had no money in my account, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, I'd be like, you can keep all the groceries.
Yeah,
I'm just
hate
gonna
myself,
run out.
so thank you so much. Yeah. No, you're right.
So, damn, we've covered a lot.
We've covered every base we could cover.
I love you.
I love you too. I'm just so glad we're friends and we've stayed friends. Because, like, I've cut a lot of people out of my life, and then there's, like, 5 that I'm like, nah, you guys can stay. And you're one of them, luckily. I'm so glad.
Same.
And I'm just, like, glad I get to keep learning from you through this podcast and through knowing you.
You're me.
We're the same. Knowing you.
I actually pause really fast before we end. Rachel and I texted each other the same thing at the same time yesterday, and that's how you know.
Exact same time. And, like, we use the same words.
Hey, are we meeting up for the pod tomorrow?
I sent it, and then at the same time it went in, and I was like...
Which, to me, it's weird that we didn't see each other typing.
No, I know. That's the weirder part. And also, I used a voice thing, so maybe that's not why I saw it. I was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And then it sent, and then I looked down, and I was like, she just texted that. All I'm saying is...
wavelengths.
Same. We are each other. It's fine. But, like, very different.
Yes.
In every way.
Exactly.
It's
well, listen, I couldn't ask for a better friend or
I love you.
Support to Louise.
Louise is my goddaughter, and I'd die for her.
There's not very many people who would die for Louise, and so I appreciate it.
Always. And you. So, yeah, don't worry. I got you. It's fine.
Yep. Well, till next time. I don't ever know how to end this.
Should we sing a song?
Louise, do you want to go outside?
That's how you end it.